Welcome to this series of exploring founders and foundresses of congregations. In this series, we'll be actually taking you through a journey of discovering the early lives of the founders, the vocations of the founders, their successes, their challenges, and what is it that drives them? What is it that inspires them into their mission work, into their ministry, into their service, their inspiration to this service. Now, Abbot Francis Pfanner. Abbot Francis Pfanner is the founder of the Missionaries of Mariannhill and Precious Blood Sisters. He was born in September 21st in Austria. His parents were Francis Anton Pfanner and Anna Maria Fink. And this is very important to naming of ministries later, as we will discover about Maria and Anna in the work of Abbot Francis Pfanner. In 1850, 25 years later, Abbot Francis Pfanner was ordained to priesthood. And in 1859, Abbot Francis Pfanner was given a task, was commissioned, appointed confessor to the Sisters of Mercy, and this was in Croatia. And in the same time, he exercised the ministry in the prisons in a place called Lepograva. So he was actually already immersed into those ministries, ministry to prisons, ministry to the sisters in terms of confession. And in 1872, Abbot Francis Pfanner actually was appointed prior of Mariannhill, one of the areas there in Mariannhill. Then in 1879, a really turning point of Abbot Francis Pfanner is when one bishop, Bishop Ricard from South Africa, goes to France when they were having a chapter. The Trappists were having a chapter, and he went there and he made an appeal for the Trappists to go and start missions in South Africa. And this was to be started on the then called the Sunday River. This is the Eastern Cape, Eastern Cape of South Africa. And when Bishop Ricard asked about someone, to go to South Africa, Abbot Francis said, "If no one goes, I will go. If no one will go, I will go." And mind you, Abbot Francis Pfanner, his health wasn't really, was delicate. He was having a health delicate, but he said, he believed he'll be fine, and says, "If no one goes, I will go." And in 1880, then they actually arrived in South Africa, where they were actually invited to actually establish the ministry. And this was in Dumbrody, and after 2 years of toiling, they realized that the area was not fertile for agriculture. And mind you, the Trappists, the monks, they survived on self-sustenance, cultivating so that they can actually feed themselves. So that's what was actually sustaining them. And since the land was infertile, they actually asked to move to another place. And in 1882, on 27th December, they actually moved to Durban, where today the Missionaries of Mariannhill, they have established a monastery there in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. And there is an interesting story about Francis there. It says when they were going there, they had identified to build the monastery on a hill, and as they were moving, with loads of carts, moving, they reached a valley whereby they could not proceed any for their chariots. They actually got stuck, and what happened is Abbot Francis said, "Off-road, off-road, we are going to build our monastery here," and the hill was just ahead. So today, the Missionaries of Mariannhill, the Mariannhill Monastery, is actually built on the slope of the hills than on the hill. But he retained the name. He says, "This shall be called Mariannhill," a monastery that is built, dedicated to Mary, mother of Jesus, and her mother, and also dedicated to Abbot Francis' mother, who is Maria Anna, or Anna Maria, so dedicated to them. And all the missions that have been opened by Abbot Franz Pfanner, they were having a Marian name: Maria Linden, Maria Zeal, Maria Stein. So they were having the Marian dedication to it. And also at the background of Mariannhill is Abbot Francis' mother, who was Anna Maria. So very interesting about this history. Now, moving further, in 1884, Abbot Francis Pfanner started opening up schools for the boys, and also baptizing adults and so on. So evangelization was actually taking root in now Durban, in now KwaZulu-Natal. And in 1885, Mariannhill actually became a monastery, of which now Abbot Francis now became the abbot of that monastery. Still further, in 1885, something important actually happened as well. Abbot Francis realized that they would not work alone. So they needed collaborators in this mission, in this ministry. So he actually invited the sisters to actually come and work, with them to open up schools for the girls. Because for the boys, they were taken care of by the Trappists. But now for the girls, they needed, education. So the missionary sisters of the Sisters of Precious Blood actually came and opened in 1885. By then, they were called the Red Sisters. History says that they were called the Red Sisters because they were wearing red habit. They were wearing a red habit. So no wonder they were called the Red Sisters. And to date, the Precious Blood Sisters, they have actually a heritage to that, which we'll actually explore further. And Abbot Francis Pfanner, by opening this collaboration, he was having that, in him, a quotation which says, "Our mission field is part of the kingdom of Jesus Christ, and it has no boundaries." So he wanted actually to open up missions, and in this actually serving the whole society. And by inviting the sisters, then they would collaborate with the Trappists to actually serve where the Trappists would be limited. Now, some of the challenges that Abbot Francis Pfanner faced, and which were really great challenges, were two of them. One, there was challenge of leadership. For example, he started a foundation in 1890, Franciscan Familiars. But what happened is this could not continue, could not go on. It was dissolved because there was poor leadership. Then another great challenge that he faced was the issue of compatibility of orders, that's Trappist orders, regulation, and the missionary work. For him, he had a foresight, he had a vision of Trappists that would go more on mission work, more on going out to serve, whereas the orders and regulations of the Trappists was more of a prayer and work, so more working within, the cloisters, working in the environs of the the cloisters and so on, not moving so much out. So this actually brought a conflict between the Trappists and those that had the missionary work, kind of missionary work zeal to serve. So until at one point they had actually to invite Abbot Francis Trunk, who had to come and try to resolve this dilemma, this conflict in the monastery. And what happened is they had to exile Abbot Franz Pfanner from the monastery, because it was like he was not following the orders of the Trappists. So he was actually taken to Emmaus, a new mission, not to be in the monastery, where actually later on he died. And this Abbot Francis also was quite controversial. He was actually protesting about some of the non-canonical procedures that Strunk actually used. Now this Abbot Strunk was trying to bring reconciliation, so he was actually protesting against some of the things that were done. So actually Abbot Francis, so he died in 1909 in Emmaus, and upon actually in that year, that's when Pope Pius X declared that Mariannhill Monastery should be now separated from the order of the Trappists. So the Trappists were asked, if they were to follow the Trappist rule, then they were asked to go back, whereas the Mariannhill Monastery then was declared to be a missionary congregation. So in 1909, it was actually declared a missionary congregation. And there is a contention to say, well, did Abbot Francis really find this congregation, or it was found by Pope Pius X? But the reality is we have a congregation that actually now responds to the needs of the time of that time and also of today. And we have the precious blood who are responding to the needs of that time and also the needs of today. Now, Abbot Francis Pfanner left us with some critical, inspiration quotes, and I would like to read some of these quotes. And he said, when he was actually joining the monastery, the Trappist, he said, "I am doing this after long and careful consideration. My thinking is completely rational. Okay? I do not seek to become rich. I do not want any high office. I do not want to become famous in this world. I would rather be poor and live totally unknown in a remote monastery somewhere, hopefully for the rest of my life, if they have need for me." And this is really inspiration. This is really inspiring. And regarding the blacks and the whites living together, he said, "If cats and dogs can live together, why not white and black children? We have tried it and it works." And I think this is really inspiring. Okay? And he says, finally, just some of his quotes, he says, "Silence is conducive to turning inward, and more surely and easily teaches one to see into the inner self and to raise one's heart and mind to God." Really inspiring. Really inspiring. Now, what's our heritage from Abbot Francis Pfanner. Now, the precious blood sisters, when you see their red string attached to a crucifix, okay, it's actually a heritage from the red sisters, because they were wearing a red habit, so they were called the red sisters. So they have actually inherited that, whereas you're having a different color of the habit, but they have a red string attached to their crucifix. Then they're also known for education. So what you find is the precious blood sisters, they are known for opening up schools and education, and much of it education of the girls. And that is what Abbot Francis Pfanner actually called them to do in the ministry in those days, to educate the boys, to educate the girls. Whereas basically would say the missionaries of Mariannhill on the other side, they go on evangelization, responding to various needs of the society, technical, vocational trainings, and so on. So this is the journey of Abbot Francis Pfanner, a young man. At age 25, he is actually ordained, and actually later on he says, if no one goes, I will go. And he says, if cats and dogs live together, why not us, blacks and whites? We have tried it, and it works. That's the life of Abbot Francis Pfanner.